Thomas Drive. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we gather to conduct the business of our city, we do so seeking your guidance and your blessing. Give our city council members discerning hearts as they listen to those who offer witnesses about the issues at hand, and enable those who approach the council to state clearly their thoughts and concerns so that our council may fully understand and properly assess the community impact of the options before them. Guide our council to make wise decisions in the work they do this day, that the choices they make are made with right intentions, with a mind towards the proper stewardship of the public resources they have been entrusted with, and the best interest of those they serve. We give thanks for their continued commitment to being faithful keepers of the environment that you have provided to sustain us, and through which you continually bless us. Enable all those present to see that what we hold in common as citizens of our fine city is more important than our differences, so that working together we might make a difference in the lives of those we encounter along our journey and those who depend upon us to act faithfully and responsibly. Finally, Lord, bless all those who gather in this place, that they may know your love and grace, and knowing it, embrace it, share it, and let it be what guides us as a community towards right relationship with you and one another. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Jones. Item 3. Item number 3 is roll call, please.
Mr. Hanson?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Shannon?
Here.
Mr. Preister?
Here.
Mr. Burns?
Here.
Mr. Modry?
Here.
This meeting will be conducted according to the Open Meetings Act, posted in the entry to the council chambers. Item 5 is approval of agenda.
Approval of the agenda, the consent agenda, and minutes and advisory committee reports. Item 5A is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second by Mr. Modry. Discussion, questions? See none, roll call vote, please.
All voted yes.
Thank you.
Item 5B is approval of the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion unless the city council member or the mayor requests a item be removed from the consent agenda, in which case it will be put in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 5B1 is approval of the minutes of the March 26, 2018 meeting of the city council. Item 5B2, approve and authorize the mayor to sign the renewal of the lease agreement with Eastern Nebraska Community Action Partnership, NCAP, for space. Item 5B3 is approving the appointment of Scott Evans to the tree board for a 4-year term until May 2022, and approving the reappointment of Holly Hofstreiter and Joanne Langaby to the tree board for a 4-year term until May 2020. Item 6 is approval of claims. Oh, excuse me, that's it for the consent agenda item.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shannon, second by Mr. Preister. Any discussion or questions? See none, vote please. Is there someone that hasn't voted?
Just cancel all our votes.
It's going over again.
All voted yes.
Thank you.
Item 6 then is approval of claims.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve the claims.
Second.
Second by Mr. Burns. Discussion, questions? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 7 is special presentation. We have 2 proclamation, one for Arbor Day and one for Earth Day. Dawn, are you gonna join me down? Arbor Day
Would you,
first.
all the Green Bellevue people like to come up? And any tree board members too? We're doing both, Arbor and Earth.
Where are all the t-shirts this year? We've got a couple t-shirts, great. I'll do Arbor Day first. The Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now celebrated annually throughout the nation and the world. Whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs by moderating the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other products. And whereas trees in our city increase property value, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, therefore, I, Rita Sanders, Mayor for the City of Bellevue, along with the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 27th as Arbor Day in the City of Bellevue, and I urge everyone to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. Thank you. We also have the Earth Day Proclamation, whereas on April 22nd, 1970, in a massive coast-to-coast rally, 22 million Americans took the streets, parks, and auditoriums to take the stand for a healthy, sustainable environment. And now, 48 years later, humanity is facing tremendous global challenges affecting their every community. This year, the Earth Day Network is mobilizing the world to end plastic pollution, as it estimated that by 2050, there will be more plastic in the world ocean than fish. And whereas Earth Day continues to be one of the political action and civic participation, an opportunity to bring awareness to the impact we make on our environment and informed decision making at every level. And whereas the Sarpy County Earth Day Expo is an opportunity to educate, inspire, and encourage the conservation, protection, and the appreciation of our natural resources and the community. And whereas Sarpy County, we pledge to focus on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future generations. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Rita Sanders, along with the council, hereby confirm the City of Bellevue's commitment as an Earth Day friendly community, and I have the direct honor of proclaiming April 29th, 2018 as our official Earth Day celebration. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think we have a photo. We're going to take a photo, and then anyone that wants to say a few words. And so, Stacy, tell us where you want us.
Hello. To begin, I would like to thank you all for allowing us to be here today. We at Green Bellevue sincerely appreciate your continued support and the work you've done on this year's Earth Day proclamation. My name is Cheyenne Svensson. I'm a mother to an 18-month-old beautiful little girl, and I am also a student at UNO. I study environmental studies. And I came to UNO knowing I wanted to study the relationship between humans and our impact on the environment. But little did I know that our environment would have a bigger impact on my life than I could ever have imagined. 1 year into my degree at UNO, I was diagnosed with alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency with paniculitis. I'm telling you this because when I was diagnosed, they told me that my disease was initiated by environmental sources. They gave me no answers. You see, my concern for the environment stems not only from being a mother, but from my firsthand experience with the environment and its effects on our health. Now I have made it my mission to be an advocate for the environment. I volunteer and I am an intern at Fontenelle Forest, and I've joined the board of Green Bellevue. And this year, our communities around the world are banding together to put an end to plastic pollution. I'm certain many of you have heard the statistics and horrifying accounts of sea life washing ashore with plastic garbage in their bellies. But this year, it has become impossible to ignore the side effects of single-use plastics. Together, we can push for the reduction in production and consumption of these plastics. Let this year be the year we stand up to plastics. And I hope you all take every single opportunity to push for legislation that improves our environment and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheyenne.
Hello. My name is Corey Oberden, and I first became engaged with Green Bellevue at the 2017 Sarpy County Earth Day planning meeting. I was so struck by this organization and the difference it makes through awareness and education that I've been volunteering ever since. I'm actually now a board member and I'm the coordinator of Sarpy County Earth Day. The theme for this year's Earth Day, as you just heard, is Pass Up Plastics. And as you heard in the proclamation and from Cheyenne, mitigating the use of single-use plastics is key in keeping our environment both healthy and welcoming. When the weather is nicer than it has been in the last few days, or weeks or months, I like to walk outside with my kids, and we walk everywhere all the time. And it's really hard to ignore plastics that we see on the roads and in parks across the state, and we actually also walk in Iowa. Don't put it against us. On behalf of Green Bellevue, I would actually like to extend a personal invitation to Sarpy County Earth Day to everyone who's present here today or watching on Channel 17 or online. Sarpy County Earth Day is a family-friendly celebration of the environment. We're proud that the City of Bellevue and Bellevue Public Schools are hosting this event for the county at the BPS Lead Center on April 29th from 12 to 4. All of the details of the event are available on our website, greenbellevue.org. It's free and it's designed for all ages. It's made possible by many volunteers, including Sarpy and our sponsors, including Sarpy County, Papillion Sanitation, Hefty Energy Bag, and the Natural Resources District. This year, we have an outstanding team of leaders from across Sarpy County, including members of the newly formed Green Gretna. So we are bringing in groups from across the county. For 2018, we have a 5K run walk and a family yoga fundraiser sponsored and organized for us by Linda Levitt of Papillion Sanitation and Sarah Lively of Unbound Soul Yoga, which is a new studio here in Bellevue. That starts at 10:30. All funds raised for this event will be matched by Modern Woodmen of the World. And then at 12 noon, the entire expo will open following a flag ceremony. We have a lot of things planned this year, including an expanded eco-friendly auto show. This year we have people who actually own cars who are going to come and bring their cars, and people can look at them and talk to them and say what is driving a EV like. And we will also have cards from one of our sponsors, Beardmore Subaru. Outside the rally outside the Lead Center will be a recycling display with pallets and the new Bellevue recycling containers and trucks by Papillion Sanitation and First Star Fiber. We're also having a secure electronics collection by Cross Training. We will take anything with a quarter battery for free, so it's a great way to get rid of all the old TVs and phones and everything else that is clogging up your basement. There will be over 40 educational vendors and exhibits, including exhibitors devoted to recycling markers, highlighters, and dry erase markers. And this is done by a little youth in our community, and it's a really, really great way to see what kids are doing in our local community to get rid of the trash that they make themselves. We're also so excited to have students from across Sarpy County helping us by volunteering this year. And the Zoo Academy is managing the Trash and Show for the second year in a row. We also have a new take on our educational speaker series, including several How to Recycle talks from the CEO of First Star Fiber, Dale Gubbles, as well as planned talks on electronic vehicles and the water cycle, along with some surprises that I've got up my sleeve. Finally, we want to remind everyone that Sarpy County Earth Day includes fabulous activities for children and adults. Our children's activities are planned by Sarah Lively, a retired military parent, and her team of hardworking volunteers. New this year is a scavenger hunt for teens and young adults to learn about the environment. If you feel like doing more for Earth Day and you want to volunteer, you can fill out a volunteer form on our website. Whether as a volunteer or participant, we encourage everyone to come out to Sarpy County Earth Day for food and fun. We will have coffee and sandwiches and all sorts of good stuff, including from the new restaurant Banh Mi. So we're really looking forward to it, and we hope everybody attends. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Earth Day group? Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Cheyenne and Corey both for coming up and speaking. And to piggyback on what they said, I cut out two articles from the World Herald. The first one says, Great Pacific Garbage Patch Bigger Than Once Thought. It's now identified out in the Pacific Ocean as twice the size of Texas, a floating garbage pool out there. The other one says, ruling puts a hold on expansion of private Butler County landfill. The Nebraska Supreme Court has ruled that the Butler County landfill cannot expand into the area and get the permit that they wanted. We no longer have an operating landfill in Sarpy County. Green Bellevue has been saying it's closing for several years. It did settle some that extended that, but it is now closed and serving as a transfer station. And where we're sending it is already in danger of filling. There are only, according to the Nebraska Department of Environmental Quality, 23 licensed landfills in the entire state of Nebraska. We can't site landfills because nobody wants them in their backyard. We're in very serious trouble statewide for what we do with our trash. The good news is Bellevue has started a new trash collection program to encourage recycling, which stays locally and which will become a product in the true American tradition of seeing opportunity even in trash. So Bellevue's rolling that out. They were delivered to my neighborhood today. It was good to see those good carts. But what happens with trash in the future is going to be up to all of us. And they're harder and harder to find a place to put them because nobody wants them in their backyard. So, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Preister. And Earth Day celebration is a great event, so do attend if you're able. Item 8, liquor license.
Item 8A is Kutch Inc., doing business as First Watch. The application is for a Class I liquor license to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits on sale only at 2015 Pratt Street, Suite 105, and to approve Gregory Kutchall as manager.
Welcome.
I'm Dan Cavan. I'm the managing partner for First Watch. We opened up a little bit about a month ago. We bought all the egg and ice in and around Omaha and here in Papillion also, and it's been fantastic. The community has really embraced us. You know, we shoot to have everything from, you know, the super healthy and fresh items like fresh juice daily. Kale tonic is a big one. You know, apples, kale, cucumbers, and lemons. To, you know, the more unhealthy stuff, which is like, you know, chiquichanga, which is kind of like a reverse burrito, but it's fantastic. So, wonderful kids menu. You know, basically what we're looking for, you know, is just a liquor license just for the occasional weekend. You know, it's about 1% to 3% at our other stores. So it's nothing major, but it's just, you know, so somebody can enjoy a mimosa or a Bloody Mary. So, you know, we're open 7 a.m. to 2:30. We're down off 20th and Cornhusker. So, you know, we'd love to have any of you guys come and try us if you haven't tried us yet. So,
Are there any questions from the council? If I can have you go ahead and sign in, I'll go ahead and open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please do so at this time. I see none. I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion that we recommend approval to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission, the Clutch Inc. DBA First Watch application for a Class I, like Ida, liquor license to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits on sale only at 2015 Pratt Avenue, Suite 105, and for Gregory Cutshall as manager.
And I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Cook, second by Mr. Shannon. Discussion or questions? Mr. Modry.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'll be abstaining from voting on this item for religious and personal reasons.
Are there any other questions or comments? See none, please vote.
Five yes votes, one abstention.
Thank you.
thank you.
Item 9, ordinance for adoption, third reading.
Item 9A is ordinance number 3902, amending the zoning ordinance regarding household pets. I'll read the title of the ordinance. An ordinance to amend sections 5.07.04, 5.08.04, 5.09.04, 5.10.04, 5.11.04, 5.12.04, 5.13.04, 5.14.04, and 5.15.04 of ordinance number 3619, Bellevue zoning ordinance relating to the keeping of household pets, to repeal such sections as heretofore existing, and to provide an effective date of the ordinance, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Mr. Modry.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve ordinance number 3902.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Modry, a second by Mr. Preister. Discussion or questions? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you.
Item 9B is ordinance number 3903, rezoning Lot 2, Wolf Creek Replat 7 from BG to RG-20-PS. For the purpose of multifamily residential development, the applicant is Wolf Creek Apartments, LLC, general location South 15th Street, south of Cornhusker Road. The title of the ordinance is an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the city of Bellevue, Nebraska, as provided for by Article 3 of ordinance number 3619 by changing the zoning classification of land located at or about South 15th Street and Cornhusker Road, more particularly described in Section 1 of the ordinance, and to provide for an effective date. Item 9B1 is the approval of the site plan for Lot 2, Wolf Creek, Replat 7.
Mr. Shannon.
Mayor, I would move that we approve item 9B.
Second.
Second by Mr. Preister. Discussion or questions? Mr. Hanson.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, at the last meeting, I spoke against this a little bit, and and I was mainly concerned is my area is Willow Springs with the traffic going up and down there, and I've heard from many of those residents. But number one, I want to tell you, first of all, I'm a believer in economic development. I've been a real estate broker here for 45 years in Bellevue. So with selling many of the properties, in fact, looking back, I kind of looked at my records, and I was actually an owner of where Wolf Creek is now, way before it was sold to Mike Hogan to build it. So at that time, it was a kind of nothing there, you know. But I can tell you that the growth is so much there that I'm really concerned that anything else in the future that goes there, there needs to be something, another exit out of that intersection, other than 15th and Cornhusker, and also at through Willow Springs, and I'm concerned about the safety and stuff like that. So it is kind of with a kind of a real combination of like which way I'm going to go. I'm going to support this, but I really would like to see our city go forward and try to figure out another way before we do anything else to have anything else going in there. You know, and again, you know, we can hear folks about the traffic, but we had the experts say that a commercial development would be 3 times more than, say, a residential development. I'm just concerned about anything else going in that area. So that's my concern, and, you know, it's a very difficult decision for me to do that, but I'm going to go ahead and support this. So,
Mr. Shannon?
And I would take that a step further. I am also voting in favor and supporting this. This is a great economic development project for the community on an unusable lot. So if we don't take this, we're getting nothing. So I don't think the traffic problem that's existed for the last 6 to 8 years should be an excuse to hold up an economic development project of this magnitude. We've got some tremendous people with great backgrounds coming to us and doing this, but I'm going to hold the city's feet to the fire on this issue. This has been an issue for a long, long time. We've made promises to residents. We've done all kinds of things. I've laid out in the newspaper a very specific plan for how to fix this area. And I would like the commitment from the city to immediately take action to extend 15th Street to the Highway 370. Most of that road is built already. There's very little that needs to be done there. That can be done very quickly to provide some relief so we can get the trucks going, you know, out of there and not going through the intersection, because a semi truck going through that intersection at 15th and Cornhusker takes up 3 cars. You know, it's a delay of 3 cars, you know, going through there. So we need to take care of this immediately. And then as a secondary project, make a commitment to put that road through to 25th Street that we keep talking about, going around Willow Springs to 25th along the railroad tracks there, so that we open this up so that we can eliminate the traffic and provide multiple exits out of here and alleviate the traffic issue. But we need to commit to do this. We've kicked this can down the road too far, but let us not penalize this development for traffic issues that it's not really going to impact. They've gone out of their way. They've done a traffic study for us. And I want to thank the developers for how far you've gone to, you know, demonstrate your willingness to work with us on this. So I am supporting this.
Mr. Preister?
Thank you, Mayor. I would concur. I think this is a good development, using a site that has a sewer line running through it that's not easy to develop because you can't put foundations in over that sewer line. So using these apartments in a configuration that they've come up with is rather creative. I like that. What I also like about it is the fact that I didn't realize there are almost 1,000 students at Bellevue University that require housing. A couple hundred athletes, but there are over 250 students from China. There are almost 400 other students, foreign students, that all need housing. This would be an excellent location for some of the housing. Our new Nebraska Medicine Bellevue has staff that's looking for housing. I thought we probably had enough apartment housing in Bellevue already, but from what I'm seeing and hearing from the people who are doing the market analysis, we don't have near enough. So this would provide that housing. I think it's appropriate that the planning department did not support this, because given the guidelines they have, they did what they were asked to do. And this is not necessarily what should be in an industrial area. But a change of zone could make it so, and it's up to us as a council to make that final decision. And so I'm listening to the planning commission rather than to the planning director, with all due respect to the planning department and their decision that I think was the right one for them. I also want to recognize the folks in Willow Springs because I'm sensitive to the traffic concerns going around and through that neighborhood. I know it's bad because when within a 6-block stretch, you have 4 stop signs and 2 speed bumps, the city's been paying a lot of attention and the neighbors have been complaining for a long time, and the city has been responding. So I don't know about putting that road, as you suggested, Councilman Shannon, all the way south and connecting it. It's about a 6-block stretch, and about 2 blocks or so of that into Cornhuskers already paved around a ready mix. So it would be a matter of connecting that 4 or so block stretch. I don't know what's involved, and I'll leave that to the engineers. And if Mr. Roberts wants to comment about looking at that, even though we may do some things between 25th and Fort Crook, that's the other end. I think we still need some kind of additional ingress and egress, and I don't see anywhere else it could go but to the south. So if you want to respond, Mr. Roberts?
Well, it's a little more complicated than what it's sounding like up here tonight. But give me the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'll put together a report for you.
Great.
Detailing what issues I see there, complications. There could be some property acquisition, could be some condemnations. It's not just as simple as putting concrete down. There's other things that's involved with it. To put a price tag on it, I think you're going to be shocked because you're going to be looking probably between anywhere from probably $3 to $5 million just to do that half-mile section. But I'll put those numbers together for you and give you some of the, like I said, the issues we see.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Roberts. Mr. Modry.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with everything that's been said. I have some trepidation of the traffic issues as well, but I will support this with the assurance that we're going to look at the traffic situation and what we can do with 25th Street or whatever it might take, and then try to work that into next year's budget probably, huh? So.
Any other discussion or questions? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion on item 9B1, which is the approval of the site plan of Lot 2, Wolf Creek Replat 7.
I would move to approve the site plan at item 9B1.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cook. Discussion or questions? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you. Item 10, ordinance for public hearing, none. Item 11, ordinance for introduction, first reading, none. Item 12, public hearing on matters other than ordinance.
Item 12A is a show cause hearing on the proposed condemnation of the structure located at 2611 Harrison Street.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Sanders, City Council members. I have a short clip I'd like to show of the structure at 2611 Harrison first, and then we can open it up to any discussion.
She's working on it.
Stacy, you gonna help him?
It's showing on my screen, but just not on
Uh-oh.
yours.
There it comes.
There we go.
back it up and start all over. Okay, this is basically the front door to the structure. This is basically looking into the front room of the structure. The ceiling's let go. The roof's had a hole in it for quite some time now. All the outside elements have been leaking in, and the floor itself is very unstable. We didn't even send anybody in that portion of the structure. All the soffits and the exterior portions of the building are beginning to rot or have rotted. The deck's a disaster, and I wouldn't step foot on it at all. The back door is open and ajar to the structure. Again, there's more soffit area that is decayed. You can see on the left side of the house there also. This is the rear of the structure, the basement area. All that moisture has just been coming down into the lower section. And everything that was stored down there is all saturated. The block on the front are starting to deteriorate too, you can see in the front. Again, just another quick close-up of some of the soffit area and how they're beginning to deteriorate also. Do you have any questions?
Mike, property owner, was notified of the hearing this evening.
Yes, twice. And we've also taped some of the notices to the door, which the last time I checked, some of them, or one of them had disappeared.
Mr. Preister.
Mike, have you heard any response
I
since
need
the
your
one?
microphone.
All right. Have you heard any response since the one you got in 2015?
None whatsoever from the homeowner.
Okay.
Nothing.
It's an unfortunate case, but no response. Nobody's been living in the house. Utilities have been off for how long?
Since 2010, it has, utilities were cut in 2010. There was an extension cord that was run from a neighbor's house, and we put a stop to that. And then since then, the house has just deteriorated.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please do so. See no one. Close the public hearing.
Item 12.A.1 is resolution number 2018-09, condemning the structure located at 2611 Harrison Street and ordering it to be torn down and debris removed by May 11, 2018.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve 12A1, resolution number 2019-9, 20-18-909. I'll get it right, yeah.
Second.
Second by Mr. Burns. Discussion or questions? Mr. Shannon.
Mr. Christensen, yeah, we're definitely not following any kind of rules of evidence here. We have an obvious situation here, okay? I mean, this has been going on a long time, but what I do not see here is anything in our packet that presents the council members some kind of chronology of what's gone on this property. I don't see any evidence, copies of letters that have been sent, any of the documentation that documents the process that's been followed in here. And I think that that's appropriate. If we're going to take action against a property, that there should be proper documentation presented to the council, and that we shouldn't just be taking a form letter where you lay out a paragraph for us and, you know, we assume that everything you say is gospel. I think we need to respect the property owner's rights. I think there needs to be a chronology presented to us. You know, if this has been going on since 2010, that ought to be one long chronology at this point. There ought to be a series of letters that we be provided copies of, so that we have documentary evidence when we come to a hearing like this to make a decision like this. Again, this case is very obvious. You know, you can go to the site of the property and it's real obvious what needs to be done in this case, but I would just like to see that documentary evidence in our packets when we come for a vote on this.
Mr. Mangiamelli.
All of that information is available and will be provided to the city council if that's what they wish.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you.
Item 12B is a show cause hearing on the proposed condemnation of the structure located at 15006 South 20th Street.
Again, I have a short clip that I'd like to show you on this property. This home was damaged in the storm in June of last year from the tornado. Basically, it's been sitting for coming up on 10 months now in this condition. Nothing's been done whatsoever. Even the debris around the outside of the structure is still laying in the same place from the night of the storm. There hasn't been anything picked up. The doors are ajar on it. Kids and other individuals could gain access to the structure at this time. So this is the way it's been sitting since the night of the storm. All the outside elements just coming right into the house and on down into the basement area. Again, outside, just the way the storm had damaged it, all the gutters, there's boards laying all along the outside of it with nails sticking up. There's small children in the neighborhood. The window well is still full of debris. Nothing's been touched. There's a lot of boards and sharp metal and nails sticking up in those areas there. So that's the backside of the structure looking east, and the entire roof is off of the structure. And again, all the patio furniture, everything just laying the way it was from the storm.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, this is sort of a unique situation that, the house wasn't, I guess, fixed. But there was several homes damaged in this neighborhood, and I drive through it quite frequently, and I feel confident in saying, and I think you would agree, that all the homes except this one are probably back with people living in them.
This is the only one remaining that was damaged from a storm that isn't repaired or at least in progress.
Right. So, I mean, I think Mike has, I've talked to Mike a little bit about this, and, it's a situation that nothing has changed from the day of the tornado. And there's kids in this neighborhood. There's a park literally probably, I don't know how close it would be, but it's a neighborhood that would have a lot of families with kids. People have entered that house from my understanding. I just think it's the right thing to do, and I appreciate you bringing this forward to us.
Mayor.
Mr. Shannon.
Am I given to understand that this home is owned by a military member that was deployed during the storm?
Okay, I've been in contact with Ms. Camille.
Okay, so he's returned from deployment now?
I don't know about the deployment, but I have spoken with the owner.
Mike, you've also spoken to the attorney representing the
I
owner.
personally haven't directly spoken, but Mr. Buckley did have a conversation with him.
And the decision was to go ahead
To
with
move forward.
condemnation.
The last decision was to move forward with the condemnation.
Whose decision?
Her attorneys.
Is there not a mortgage on this property? What's the mortgage holder
company
say?
that's been notified of this hearing also, and as well as the insurance company. All parties involved have been notified.
Yeah, I did speak with this homeowner's attorney, and he did say that they have no opposition to the council proceeding with this action tonight.
And have we spoken to the person that's holding the mortgage?
They've been sent certified letters, and we've gotten receipts on all of those.
What's the city's obligation for a military member?
My understanding is the military member has been notified, or a spouse has been notified, and that's all that we need to do to complete that. This isn't a matter of military otherwise. This is a dispute with their insurance company, and that's why it's not gotten resolved.
I realize that, but aren't there specific federal protections for military members?
Yes, there's a Soldiers and Sailors Act, which, but in this particular circumstance, is not going to apply.
Okay. As long as it's been looked at, Okay. And again, this is a situation where having the proper documentation in our packets would have answered a lot of these questions. So I would ask in the future
Moving forward,
that,
if you would like that information, I have all of it.
all right, thank you.
Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. We may actually be doing the veteran or the homeowner a favor, because if there's a stalemate between the insurance company and the homeowner and this is dragging on, this may get some action from the insurance company. We can hope for the best. Everybody's been informed. There's nobody here testifying. They've signed for the letters. We don't like doing these things, but the neighbors don't like living with the problem. So we're forced to take some action to intervene. And I appreciate our staff looking at it, seeing the severity, seeing the potential danger to the kids, to the neighbors, and bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and open for public hearing on this item. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please do so. I see none. I'll close the public hearing.
Item 12B1 is resolution number 2018-10, condemning the structure located at 15006 South 20th Street and ordering it be torn down and debris removed by May 11, 2018.
Mr. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a motion we approve resolution number 2018-10.
Second.
Second by Mr. Burns. Discussion or questions? Mr. Shannon?
Just one more question. Has a structural engineer looked at this property? Is it structurally sound still and just in need of repair? Or, I mean, are we tearing down another property because it's ugly?
No, it's a public nuisance at this point.
But it's still a structurally
Our
sound
ordinance-
structure.
It's not structurally sound. It's,
Because-
it has rafters hanging down and the roof's off of it, and you saw the video of it.
But the walls and the floors are all solid.
At
It
this
just
point,
needs
they're
the
still
repairs
standing.
at the roof.
They're still standing, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? See none, please vote.
The vote is 5-1 with Mr. Shannon voting no.
Thank you.
Item 12C is a public hearing on the event license application of the Freedom Running Company to use Hayworth Park and city streets on May 16, 2018, from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. for a half marathon, 10K, 5K, and family walk run.
At the 26th.
Is there anyone here?
Good evening, Mayor Sanders and council. My name is Joe Ramos, and I represent Freedom Running Company. We have our event coming up that we've been working in hand with the base to raise money for the War on Terror Memorial out at American Heroes Park, and Mr. Frazier has actually been helping us out with that one as well. So our plan is on May 26th to utilize sections of Main Street for a half marathon, 5K, 10K. We've been talking to the police department and are at the understanding they will not be able to provide the proper support to be able to close the structures down. However, we do have a number of volunteers, and we will be posting a volunteer at every intersection. The runners will be following the traffic laws in regards to stopping for the crosswalks and stoplights. Once we proceed down Mission Street, we're going to be taking a left onto Lincoln Road, going through the Bellevue gate of the Air Force Base. We're going to kind of loop around the base on the inside, taking the east gate out. That's right by the end of runway 30. And we are going to be crossing over into the Hayworth Park area on the trails out there. And then we will cross back over Mission into the American Heroes Park to conclude the race. And I have coordinated with the police department again on coming back over Mission right by the beginning of the bridge. And they said that they would be able to at least have one police officer out there to help supervise that traffic flow.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ramos? See none, I'll go ahead and open for public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to please do.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I just wanted to express my thanks for supporting the effort on the War on Terror Memorial, going back to the January City Council meeting when that was approved. And sure do appreciate Mr. Roberts and his staff, all the support that we've received from the city. And we look forward to forming an even stronger bond between the city and the military.
And if
Thank
you
you very
could
much.
state your name for the TV.
Yes, ma'am. Ed Frazier on behalf of American Heroes Park Volunteers.
Thank you. And if you both could sign in. Are there any questions from the council? Mr. Shannon.
The last thing in our packet from the police says that as proposed, they have issues with this event license. So what is the status of that?
That note was made in advance of our meetings with Mr. Frazier and Mr. Ramos, so they've addressed all of the concerns that we've had. Initially coming on, we didn't feel that we'd be able to block and shut down Mission Avenue as requested, so they've made consolidations or they've made some changes to their plan so that we'll be able to accommodate them and it should be able to work fine.
So you have no objections remaining at this point?
We do not. We've met with them since they've met all of our concerns.
All right. I place great weight on your opinion, so I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you.
What are the wishes of the council? Wait, I need to close the public hearing yet. Is there anyone else who would like to say a few words? Anyone else? I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Mr. Shannon.
I would move to approve the event license for this item.
Second.
Second by Mr. Modry. Discussion or questions? See none, please vote.
All voted yes.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Item 13, resolutions none. 14, current business.
Item 14A is approval of the revised council policy resolution number 4 regarding purchasing and payments.
Mr. Shannon.
Mayor, I would move to approve item 14A.
Second.
Second by Mr. Burns. Discussion or questions? See none, please vote.
Vote is 5-1 with Mr. Modry voting no.
Thank you.
Item 14A is approval to rescind contract approval with Felsberg, Holt, and Ulevig to prepare a report on the procedures and costs associated with establishing a quiet zone parallel to Fort Crook Road.
Mr. Burns.
So I really just want to explain this really quick. I am bringing this. Oh, well, first I move to approve it. Thanks. Item 14B.
Is this a motion to reconsider what we approved last council meeting?
Well, so if we're approving to rescind it, then if we voted yes, then that would mean it would reverse.
There would be no contract.
Yeah. Did that make sense to you?
Should we be doing a motion to reconsider?
Let me see how it's written again. Okay. He's actually filing a motion or making a motion to rescind. We're not indirectly, we're reconsidering it. I think the bigger problem that we have, though, is that is a signed contract, and without mutual agreement of the other party, it's not going to be rescindable.
Right.
Is it not? So, I guess at this point, what happens now then? I mean, what action should we take?
If you want to make a motion to rescind, if it is a mutual rescission, meaning the other party will also agree to that, then you can vote on that. I wouldn't just rescind it unilaterally or you're going to be in default.
The contractor has been put on hold. Is that correct, Mr. Roberts?
That's correct.
I think the operative issue is the mayor has signed the contract. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then we can't do this without the approval of the other party.
Mr. Cook?
I thought there was a time limit. You had to, if you're gonna ask for a vote to rescind, it had to be brought by the next council meeting, back to the next council meeting.
That is to be for reconsideration. He's asking to rescind the contract, which you could still do, but if we're going to make a motion to that effect, should be upon mutual rescission with the other party.
Mr. Hanson?
Thank you very much. I'm just trying to get a little background, and I believe Mr. Modry brought this forward to us. It must have been maybe somebody out of your ward that was complaining about the noise and stuff like that. And at that last meeting, I think Mr. Roberts said, we don't really have the expertise of the people to go ahead and figure out, how to make a quiet zone with all the complications that there are. And I believe that was 4-2 to go ahead and I think Mr. Modry voted against that because I believe you thought we could do it through the internet versus have somebody come out here and do the study. I know it is complicated, and I guess my question is, so Mr. Modry, do you have any more comments on that I guess from the standpoint, you would like to see a quiet zone but not necessarily have the study? And Mr. Burns, what are you saying? You don't want to do any of it, or what?
Yeah.
Well, you can one at a time, I don't care.
Yes, it was brought forward about a year ago by me through the city administrator and Mr. Roberts to kind of look at it and see. Had gotten a number of complaints from people living along Fort Crook Road on either side about the noise from the trains. Yes, I would like to see if we could get a quiet zone through that area. My concern last time was that I was not necessarily convinced that we needed to spend $12,000 to come up with a budgetary figure for it. And I've looked at it more. I gave you a big packet. I don't know that I'm going to go into all that. There's a lot of information in there on what you need to do and the risk factors and all those various things that can be worked out, and you can put in different scenarios for different supplemental safety measures at the various crossings and what have you. After going out and doing some of my own measuring and looking at the configuration of each of those crossings, there's only 2 where we can implement inexpensive supplemental safety measures, those delineators, if you will. They recommend 100 feet on either side of the track with a minimum of 60 feet if there's an intersection that won't allow you to get 100 feet. And only Childs Road and Chandler Road allow that. Avery, it's tough to do anything with all the quick turns and stuff there. The other intersections would probably require putting in 4 gates, 2 on each side to keep somebody from going through. And the Federal Railroad Administration gives a cost of about $100,000 for that. Now that may be optimistic. It may be 120, 130. Given that, and then Camp Brewster Road, we could put in delineators. If we blocked off a road on the east side of the first building that you come to when you go west across the railroad tracks into, the old Burlington Coat Factory thing and that stuff there, would give enough room for delineators there too. Bottom line is, in the back of your packet, there's calculations for if we put those channelization devices at Childs Camp Brewster, which would require blocking that road along the building off, and at Chandler, it would reduce that quiet zone risk index below what the risk index is right now with horns. Those supplemental safety devices really lower the risk beyond what it is with a horn. So we would have a lower risk index than we currently have. And they say about 13,000 for each of those channelizers. Again, that might be a little low, 20,000 each would be 60,000 plus some signage costs, plus some review costs. So if we wanted to do this, you know, I think it could be done and come in with a risk index that's below the current risk index with horns, you know, for 100,000. But I think I'm okay with going ahead with the study for them to come back and tell us that. And then if there are any other alternative safety measures that could be done on those other roads that don't have a lot of space for these cheap fixes. So, yeah.
Mr. Burns.
So, my thinking was, and as I thought more, and I also spoke with Joe more, is that if we went through with the study, first, you know, when we actually voted on it, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, you know, I mean, I did vote for it, but Jim originally brought it forward, and I mean, I think usually if you do bring something forward, you know, you have to support it. And then, you know, beyond that is Jeff said that, you know, no one in the public works is, you know, has expertise in that area. And so, you know, it requires having a study. But then beyond that, even if we have the study and they say, okay, you have to do X, Y, and Z, we might not actually be able to do those things, because my understanding is that, you know, we have to have permission to do anything on those railroad tracks or around it. And then beyond that, I think it's just extremely costly to do anything. And my understanding is not very many trains come through there anyways. And then furthermore, I think those railroad tracks were there first. So, I mean, I think that anybody who lives near them, you know, who, let's say, purchased a home or a property is well aware of trains going by and horns honking. So, I didn't mean that to sound rude or anything. Okay. So that's kind of my reasoning. And I think really, you know, $12,000 for the study is really a waste of money, because I really think at the end of it, they're going to say, well, you have to do X, Y, and Z. If it's costly, is it worth it? So.
Mr. Modry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the costs that were put into our packet are really out of sight and unrealistic from what I've researched and looked at. We don't have to get permission. We have to give them a notice of intent, allow them 60 days to comment. We as a public authority can designate a quiet zone. You know, putting in supplemental safety measures as appropriate to satisfy our risk tolerance. And again, with those inexpensive channelization fixes that I described at the 3 locations, it puts the risk factor below what it currently is.
Just
Mr. Hanson.
Maybe, Jim, you might know this, but if you put these extra gates in, whose responsibility for the maintenance of those after this is done? My understanding, it might be the city's responsibility, not the railroads.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything in the regs where they said whose responsibility it is, but we pay for it, so it probably is ours.
Right.
And there may be some federal funding available to help with the costs as well. I saw some of that out there. And gates, again, would only be if we wanted to do that to lower it down even further, but the channelization things would, right now.
Hold on, Mr. Chan, hold on. Mr. Preister.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask somebody, risk management, I guess, but what would be the additional liability that the city would be under should we choose to undertake doing these things on our own without an engineer, or just establishing them even with somebody else's permission and then owning them? And maybe we don't have that answer, but it's certainly a concern.
Mr. Sullivan.
I suppose that all depends on how right the non-expertise opinion is. But and with due respect to Councilman Modry, I can go on the internet and look up how to do a divorce, but I'm sure as heck not gonna do that. I'm gonna go to somebody who does divorces and have somebody, Kathy, I'm not getting a divorce, but I'm not going to try to interpret and figure something out that isn't in my area of expertise. If you guys want to figure this out, it sounds to me that you should be using professionals that work in this area and have been through this. And there may be exceptions that we don't even know about. And I tend to find sometimes that the internet, we think that it's on the internet that it's right, and then a lot of times it's not. And so the debate here really should be whether you want to do something with those roads or not. And if you do, then you should be using an expert to deal with that, that does this as part of their living. And I don't mean any disrespect toward Mr. Modry on that. It's just you're going down a road that does have a lot of risk. You're going down a road that could be expensive. We need somebody in that area of expertise to handle it.
Mr. Shannon.
Okay, I think we need to bring this back to reality. What's on our agenda here tonight is an approval to rescind a contract that would place the city in breach. I would ask that we table this. This is ill-advised. This is not an action that should be taken. We would place the city in breach and be in all kinds of trouble. Let's table this for a meeting. Let's get that mutual consent if you want to get rid of this thing. But let's not do something right now unilaterally that's going to get the city in trouble. And that's the only item on the agenda tonight, is the rescinding of the contract.
Mr. Mangiamelli.
As we indicated before, the consultant has been advised. They haven't initiated the work yet. Their professional group, I think they would respect the wishes of the council. We don't want to delay this any further. Either you support rescinding the contract or you don't, in which case we'll move forward. And if you don't like rescinding the contract this evening, just vote no on the motion.
The city attorney's already advised us that this would place the city in breach. Mr. Sullivan, would you restate, please?
What I said is why does that not work for me? If you want to rescind it, I think the motion should say that you're going to move to rescind by mutual rescission. So if they don't rescind, then nothing occurs.
Do we have a motion?
We had a motion.
I don't think we have not had a motion or a second yet. We had discussion
And it would
about
be a
the
modified
item.
motion.
Do you want me to clarify how that motion should be?
Yeah.
Okay. The motion should be to rescind the contract in the event the contractor agrees to rescind also. And you can just adopt what I said as your motion.
All right. What he said.
We need a second.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Hanson. Discussion or questions? See none, please vote. A yes vote would rescind, a no vote as we,
Hanson.
But we need this.
yeah, please vote.
Blindly signing a page without even seeing what I'm signing.
The vote is 3-3 with Mr. Cook, Mr. Shannon, and Mr. Modry voting no.
So we need a tie.
You can leave it go, and the contract stays.
I vote yes to rescind. Item 15, administration reports. Comments must be limited to the items on the current report. Are there any questions for Mr. Mangiamelli? I see none. Moving on to item number 16, public request to be heard. Any member of the public addressing the council shall abide by council policy resolution number 35 regarding the principles of conduct and decorum, which states any statement made during the city council meeting by the mayor, members of the city council, city official employees, or members of the general public shall not involve personal or impertinent or slanderous attacks on individuals, regardless of whether the individual so attacks is elected official, city official, or employee, or member of the general public. And City Code Section 2-68 regarding the manner of addressing the council. Copies of the aforementioned rules are posted outside. Actually, they're posted right here in the council chambers. Speakers shall limit their presentation to 5 minutes.
It was a short retirement, Chuck.
Say what?
It was a short retirement.
Well, things are happening here I just gotta talk about. I really wanted Mr. Sullivan here. He's in Stacy's.
Hey, Joe. I get Stacy. Button to call Stacy. I don't have to get back yet.
Good evening, Chuck Frederick, 1511 Madison Street. I kind of wanted Mr. Sullivan here because the last time I spoke.
He's in the room.
What's that?
Mr. Sullivan, would you step into the chamber, please? He can hear from where he's at.
Okay. Last time I spoke was a couple meetings ago, but before that time, Mr. Sullivan said that whenever I wanted to have my website in the minutes, all I had to do was ask. So I'm asking right now again. It wasn't the last time I spoke, but I'm asking to have my website, chuckfrederick.com, FREDRICK.com, in this minutes. I've been looking at some of the comments on Facebook for Bellevue Facebooks, and there are a lot of unhappy campers out there. They're upset about how the city is being run. If they had watched the city council meetings or read the minutes, they would know how I have been saying for over 4 years, talking to the city council over 200 times in the public request segment. I'm the guy that got the public request to be heard on the agenda. Neither the Bellevue Leader nor the TV or the World Herald reporters have printed what I've talked about or have printed in their paper. They also they haven't followed up on many of the items that I've talked about and that I have mentioned. I am going to say this loud and clear. I think the city of Bellevue is run very poorly. The mayor reads her thing each time before a public request be heard, not to say anything bad about anybody, and I've been really careful not to do that. But if you look at my website and look at what the ACLU letter says in there to the city council, if I wanted to, I could point to one person and say they're doing a bad job, and that's okay. I mean, so I think all of you should look at at my website and look at what the ACLU said on that. And so I'm not obviously going to pick anybody out right now, but I don't think I have to. I think you all know who you are. I have talked about another thing that was on my website I mentioned here before too, is Paul Harvey. He had comments about the police department. And I mentioned before, but I think everybody should listen to that Paul Harvey comments. He did that years ago, but it's even more important to hear it now. And we need the respect. We have to give our police officer respect. And if you listen to that and play it for other people to listen to, I think it might help a bit because they need our respect. I have talked about, in the past, I've talked about another dog park in southwest Bellevue. I've talked about a monthly balance sheet, which we don't do. I've talked about getting another library in southwest Bellevue. And like every other thing that I have talked about, when I ran for mayor, I talked about getting a full-time city attorney. We need to have a Charlie Jensen, the state auditor, come down and look at our books. You hired an auditor for 5 years, and you do the same thing over and over again. You wait until the last minute to present the audit to the council. They don't have time to read it, but you got to vote on it because they got to get to the state. This has happened continuously. And I think that if you have an auditor for 5 years, going on 3 years now, that keeps doing that, I think it's time to get a new city auditor, a new auditor hired by the city. It's just a game they play. So, and also the public can't have a chance to look at the audit report, and that's wrong. We want transparency in this city. This is just one of the things we have to do.
Your time's up.
I'm going to ask for another 5 minutes then.
I don't think it's granted. Thank
Then you don't know the rules, Mayor, right? You've been here for 7 years. The rules are the council gets to vote on it. You don't have the decision.
The council is shaking their heads no. Is there a motion?
There is
Hold
a
on,
vote.
Mr.
There
Frederick.
has to be a vote.
Hold on, Mr. Frederick. Is there a motion? There is none.
No, there has to be a vote. There's no motion made. They have to make a vote. That's in the rules.
Is there a vote, gentlemen?
You're done.
There is none.
You're done. And I never, ever said that.
Well, I could play the tapes.
Are there others that would like to speak at this time? Please do so. See none, we'll move on to item number 18 for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Motion and a second. Please vote. Oh, we don't need a vote, do we? We don't.
I need a vote from Mr. Hanson, please.
Mr. Hanson wants to stay. Thank you, and we'll see you. Next council meeting is April 23rd. Thank you.
All voted yes, so, yeah.
Thank you.